"Dad, there's no room for you. We invited too many people." The words were delivered gently, almost apologetically, which somehow made them hurt more. I stood just inside the rented banquet hall, the warmth of the place washing over me. Roasted turkey, sweet spices, laughter bouncing off cream-colored walls. In my hands was a homemade pumpkin pie, still warm beneath the foil. I'd baked it that morning, careful with the crust, because I still believed showing up with effort mattered. 150 people turned to look. Not sharply, not cruelly, just enough to make it clear I didn't belong. Forks paused. Conversations thinned into murmurs. I scanned the room, hoping I had missed something obvious. There was no chair with my name, no extra place setting, not even a folded metal chair tucked against a wall. M.Y.'s son would meet my eyes. His gaze jumped to his wife, then to the floor, then somewhere over my shoulder, like avoiding me might make the problem disappear. Mason, my 17-year-old grandson, lifted a hand in a small, awkward wave. He didn't know what to do with the moment yet. None of them did. I smiled anyway. "It's okay, son. I understand." I turned and walked out before anyone could say more, before the pie cooled in my hands. Inside, something shifted, quietly, permanently. When I got home, the first thing I did was call my accountant. Sleep never came that night. I lay on my back, staring at the slow rotation of the ceiling fan as it clicked softly, like it was counting down time I'd already wasted. The scene replayed itself again and again. My son's tight smile, the way he spoke as if I were a scheduling error, an afterthought, a placeholder, a man they use in need. That M.Y. mind began listing things without mercy. College tuition paid, without contracts. Mortgages I'd temporarily. Help with that never quite ended. Emergency checks, quiet rescues, problems solved so smoothly, they were forgotten the moment they stopped hurting. All of it boiled down to one thought that wouldn't let go. They couldn't save me a folding chair. Morning came cold and gray. I poured black coffee and stood by the window, staring at the frozen lawn while the house sat heavy and still around me. When my accountant called back, his voice was cautious. "You wanted clarification on the family trust accounts?" "Yes," I said. "Pull everything. Every cent. All of it." There was a pause. "Walter, that's a lot of money." "I'm aware." Next was my attorney. "We're rewriting the will," I told her. No anger in my voice. Just certainty that M.Y.'s son thought Thanksgiving was crowded. Let's see how crowded the rest of his life feels. 3 days later. My phone lit up on the counter. I didn't answer. Jeremy's voicemail followed anyway. Confusion leaking through every word. He talked about the joint trust account, how the bank said it was closed, how there had to be some mistake. He laughed once, uncertainly, as if this were something we'd fix with a quick call. I deleted ITBY then. Everything was already in motion. Joint investments liquidated. My name removed from co-sign guarantees that had been quietly propping up his world. The beach house, his favorite symbol of success, transferred to a veterans housing program. I wasn't being petty. I was correcting a mistake. That evening, there was a knock at my door. Jeremy's wife stood there with a carefully practiced smile, explanations ready. She talked about stress, about being overwhelmed, about how that night wasn't personal. I raised my hand. "Stop." She froze. "I've accepted that I'm not needed at your table," I said calmly. "But I won't be needed in your balance sheet either." Her smile faltered. "You made room for 150 people," I continued. "I'm making space for none." I closed the door slowly and locked it. No shouting, no rage, just correction. My phone buzzed just after noon the next day. Mason's name lit up the screen, and for a moment, my chest tightened in a way I didn't expect. "Grandpa," I didn't know they'd do that. I didn't agree with it. I stared at the message for a long time. Mason had always been different. When he was younger, he asked questions instead of favors. He listened instead of waiting to talk. He saw me as a person, not a card to swipe when life got expensive. But there was the part that mattered most. He had watched it happen, watched his grandfather turned away, holding a warm pie like proof that love still showed up on time. And he'd said nothing that I typed slowly. Mason, kindness delayed is kindness denied. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No reply came. That afternoon, I made another call. The college fund I'd quietly built for Mason over the years, $820,000, carefully invested, untouched, was redirected. The charity board chair sounded stunned when I explained. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Give it to foster care students, housing grants, kids who age out with nowhere to land." She paused. "Any reason you want to structure that way?" "Give it to someone who knows what it means to be left out of the room." When the call ended, I sat alone in the old living room chair where our family used to pile in for holidays, knees touching, voices overlapping. The house was quiet now, but my soul wasn't bitter. It felt clean, like something heavy had finally been set down. My son Daniel left a voicemail that evening. His voice was tight, angry, wrapped in concern. "Mason's devastated," he said. "He thinks you hate him now. What kind of lesson is this?" I didn't respond. I forwarded the message to my lawyer and went back to the kitchen. I made breakfast for dinner. Eggs, toast, nothing fancy. Ate slowly. Slept well. Daniel taught Mason how to treat people like placeholders. Mason was finally tasting the emptiness that comes with serving that dish. Actions echo. They always do. The following week, my attorney confirmed the final filings. The estate, just over $14 million, was settled and distributed. Not a cent left dangling. Not a loophole to pry open. Later, Point 3 foundations received everything. Point 1 for children aging out of the foster care system, with housing guarantees attached. 1 for caregivers of Alzheimer's patients, the quiet heroes no one checks on. And 1 anonymous fund for veterans over 70 with no family support. My name was on none of them. But my fingerprints would be everywhere. That evening, I sat on the porch as the sun dipped behind the hills, painting the sky in tired oranges and purples. No spite, no regret, just the calm of a quiet man who finally remembered he could still choose where his love landed. And for once, I chose people who saw me. The story broke a few days later in the local paper. Veteran elder donates entire estate after Thanksgiving exclusion, no name, just the facts. Daniel saw it anyway. I know he did. My phone rang 4 times that night. He didn't leave a voicemail. Silence spoke loudly enough. The knock came the next afternoon. When I opened the door, Mason stood there alone, jacket zipped his chin, hands trembling despite the mild cold. His eyes were puffy, red like he hadn't slept. "Grandpa," he said quietly, "I messed up." I stepped aside and let him in. That we didn't talk about money or Thanksgiving. We talked about his piano teacher, his audition fears, what kindness used to look like in our family before it became transactional. He stayed for dinner. While he washed dishes, my phone rang again. Daniel's name flashed on the screen. Mason glanced at it, then back at me. "Can I still come next week?" he asked softly. I nodded. "I like that." Some people earn your time back with apologies, others with action. Mason was learning the difference. The knock came early the next morning. No call, no warning. Just a quiet, deliberate sound against the door. "Dad," a voice said from the other side. "It's me." I waited a moment before opening it. When I did, Daniel stood there looking smaller. Not physically, but in every way that mattered. His shoulders sloped inward. His hands hovered uselessly at his sides. The confidence he'd worn so easily just days ago had drained out of him. "I didn't mean to," he started. "You did," I said gently, cutting him off. "You meant every word." He flinched, then stopped trying to defend himself. For a long moment, he just stood there. Then he nodded once. "You're right," he said. "I was trying to impress them. The in-laws, the business partners, everyone watching." He exhaled slowly. I thought leadership meant taking charge, showing I could run things now. I stepped aside and let him in. He followed me into the dining room, his eyes drifting to the old table, without meaning to. His mother's favorite spot was still there, the corner seat near the window. I remembered him hiding under that table as a boy when thunderstorms scared him. He remembered it too. I could see it in the way his throat tightened. "And what does leadership mean now?" I asked. He swallowed. "It means protecting the people who built it in the first place." I nodded, then pointed toward the garage. "Your mother's old chairs are still in there. Sand them down. Paint them. Bring them back in. He looked at me, confused. The chairs. You want a seat at the table? I said calmly, build one. He didn't argue. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He just nodded again and walked toward the garage. That wasn't forgiveness. It was foundation. Sunday came quietly. I didn't go to church. I didn't open the paper. I sat by the front window with a cup of coffee and waited. The first car pulled up just before 10. Daniel stepped out, lifting 2 chairs from the trunk. They were beautiful, sanded smooth, painted carefully, solid again. His wife followed with a pie held in both hands, her eyes lowered, shame softening her expression. More cars came. Marcy arrived with her little girl, who burst through the door and wrapped her arms around my legs. "Grandpa," she said brightly, "can I sit next to you today?" I smiled. "Of course you can." By noon, the house was full, not with apologies, but with movement. Someone swept the floor. Someone else set the table. Food warmed on the stove. Fresh name cards were placed carefully. One by one, mine was carved into a small piece of oak. Daniel hovered near the head of the table, unsure of himself. I caught his eye and gestured. "You host?" I said. He blinked, surprised, then took the seat carefully, like he was afraid it might disappear beneath him. The family gathered not out of guilt or obligation, but because they remembered something real, something older than pride. I took a quiet breath, not for what I'd lost, but for what I'd reclaimed. The table had room again, not for blood alone, but for love.